Monthly meeting to order, the Columbia County Planning Board, doing it virtual. Sorry for the delay, folks, but we did get going here finally. And so did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yep.
Ed so moves, Rick seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are all set. And we'll start the 239 referrals.
Okay. So. Can you see
Yeah.
the agenda?
Yep.
The agenda.
Okay, so the first project is 20040, it's Town of Clover Zoning Board of Appeals. The applicant is Clover Land Co. LLC by Barclay Damon LLP, they're the representatives. The location is 341 New York State Route 217. It's for an assisted living area variance for an assisted living facility. It's the site of the Pine Haven. The applicant is granting an area variance within 500 feet of a state highway and a municipal boundary. The existing zoning is residential commercial. This is the whole entire parcel here. This is where the Pine Haven facility is right here. The existing land use is the nursing home. Surrounding is residential and ag. The parcel is approximately 56.5 acres. They're seeking an area variance for a proposal to construct the adult home and assisted living facility. The height of the building exceeds the maximum allowed height and the minimum setback requirements. The proposed would include the proposed demolition of the existing structure and construction of a new facility. This is the survey of the parcel. Let's see. The area variances would be, as I mentioned, for the building height to exceed the maximum allowable building height. 35 feet is permitted. They're proposing 42 feet, so the variance would be for 7 feet. And the other variants are related to required setbacks in the Rural Conservation Zoning District. The side yard setback requirement is 50 feet. They're proposing 40 feet, so a variance for 10 feet. And the side yard combined requirement is 100 feet, and they're proposing 90, which would be a variance of 20. I'm going to get to the drawing that so I can show you where those setbacks are. Okay, so the 40-foot setback is, this one show it. Hard to see. Here we go. You can see right in here, this is the side yard setback. That is the 40 feet. That is less than the required. And the other is 50 feet on the other side. Here, this is the 50-foot setback. They made a determination that reuse of the existing structure and to expand the Pine Haven nursing home would not be feasible. And the development is limited by there's a pretty steep slope, as you saw on the survey with the topography. Let me get back to that. And the ravine also is present. on the site here, this area. And this has been a medical facility for approximately over 100 years. It was initially established as a county tuberculosis hospital in the 1920s, then a county home in the 1950s, and then as operated at Pine Haven Home since approximately 1972 to present day. It currently is the Pine Haven Nursing Rehabilitation Center with 120 skilled nursing facility. Now, this is an uncoordinated review between the Cloverwick ZBA and the Cloverwick Planning Board. The applicant is sought to have the variance sent to us as a referral, and the site plan referral the site plan review referral will be sent by the planning board separately. We didn't find that there was countywide impact from these variances. We do have a couple of comments, just noting that the proposed side yard setback is along a common boundary, and it's abutting, the parcel that it's abutting is under the same ownership. And then also noting that the Cloverwick Planning Board, the project is subject to site plan review by the Cloverwick Planning Board. I can show you. This is a color rendering showing vegetation, and it's a little bit easier to read than the other one with all the dimensions on it. And then there's an elevation showing what the proposed structure would look like. This is short environmental assessment form is prepared. Ag data statement, which is required under ag and markets law. Proximity to an parcel in an active farm operation within 500 feet of this parcel. Is there any other map that you'd like to see while I'm scrolling through in particular, or any other drawings?
No, I think we're good for as far as the variances go. I mean, next month, whenever we see the project for site plan review, that would be.
Patrice, I have one comment you may want to consider because of the height variance. They may want to have the local fire department, whoever's responsible for initial response there, sign off to make sure they can get in there and get people out of that third floor.
Okay.
I don't know what type of equipment they have in the rural districts that may be over there.
Okay, I'll
But
add
the
that.
fire
one.
chief should definitely sign off on it.
Yeah.
Is the original home going to be left, or is that going to be torn down eventually?
It's gonna be,
No, demolition, as far as I know.
gonna be
After this one's built, right?
Hey, Patrice,
Yeah.
the fire departments are involved in it and they're aware of everything.
Okay.
Okay.
You still want me to put that on as a comment, though?
Well, I
Or-
think they should if they're going to be
Yeah.
granting a variance
Okay.
for a height.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, still put it in, but I just wanted everybody to know that they are
Yep.
aware of it.
Good.
Okay. Thank you, Hookie.
Yep.
So yeah, any other questions or comments? And Patrice, I don't know if you noticed, Steve has joined us. Steve.
No, I
Agree.
did not. Okay. I can only see what I'm presenting. I can't see anything else.
Steve, your microphone's off.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Hi, Steve.
Okay, I had access problems.
Oh, okay.
It got on.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks
Just
for
we
coming, Steve.
heard a little while ago. You didn't miss much yet.
okay.
Okay, so any other questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion
Motion to accept staff's recommendation.
along with the additional one about the fire companies. Right.
Second.
Larry seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Patrice,
Yes.
I'm getting my screen is weird. Like I got a circle going around. It says Patrice is presenting, but is it
just my screen doing that, or like
I was
the,
switching. I was switching screens. Maybe that's what's causing that. I was going to the next project. Can you see this?
it did it all through the last one too. Like what you're showing is real faint, and I just keep seeing this thing spinning around.
I didn't see it. It was good
I
here.
No, I was fine.
I
My
think she's
screen-
just messing with you, Steve.
My
Rick.
screen's
Well, all
really
right, I'll close. I can. Maybe it's your. Are you the only one that's having that problem?
I must. I'll show you. I'll take a picture and show you what I got.
Grab a hold of the computer and just hold on to it.
drop it.
See what my screen's doing?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Is it still doing?
It's only you though. The rest of us aren't seeing it.
Do you have a lot of windows opened on your computer?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll just deal with it for now. Okay.
Oh wait.
There we go. Now we're good.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to the second referral, 20041V. The applicant is Peter Bartlett, Home Range Winery. Referring body is the Town of Canaan Zoning Board of Appeals. It's to establish a New York State farm winery. It's located on 146 Flint's Crossing Road. Issuance of a special use permit within 500 feet of a county road. Its existing zoning is C2. The existing land use is winery, residential, and ag, and the surrounding land use is residential and commercial. Okay, so this is the parcel, one of the parcels where the winery would be located, or is located. It will be the access, there's existing access. It's a little loop off of the Flint's Crossing Road. This is the barn, which is right here, this little brown roof. This is a residential structure that is frontage on the Flint's Crossing Road. And this is just showing the other land uses in the area, residential and agricultural primarily. And here is I-90, Thruway, State 22.
Yep.
This is just to show the location of the wetlands on the parcel and in adjacent parcels. And also the federal wetlands and also the check zone for the DEC freshwater wetlands. Okay. So this is just a little visual. I think that's probably the best one for right now. The special use permit is required for a restaurant and retail sales for a New York State farm winery, craft beverages, home range winery, proposing to produce wine, operate a tasting room, and offer bottled sales and potentially grapes when their production exceeds the need for the wine. They're projecting that will produce 2,000 gallons a year, which equates to approximately 10,000 bottles. And a New York State farm winery must produce wine using 100% New York State products, and it's falls under the authority of New York State Alcohol and Beverage Control Law, Section 76A. The farm winery license authorizes one to produce on-site New York State wine, mead, cider, and sell for off or on-premise consumption. They may also sell in bulk to other New York State licensed farm wineries, breweries, etc. They also authorizes them to be the ability to conduct tastings and sell on premises at retail for consumption on or off premise, and also to sell gift items incidental to the sale of wine, and also food which would be complementary to the tastings. It also allows for manufacturing of at least 50 gallons with a maximum of 250,000 gallons annually. So the minimum production is the 50 gallons. As I mentioned before, there's existing access off of Flint Crossing Road, and the barn is existing retrofitted. The lower level of the barn is approximately 900 square feet, and it will house the processing room, workspace, and the cellaring area. The main floor is 900 square feet. It would include the tasting room with seating. The indoor seating, there are 26, and outdoor, there are approximately 30 seats. There would also be a restroom. Parking, including ADA, is on site, and it would be gravel. There are also part of the establishing this winery use is conversion of the existing ag use to fruit production. The tasting room would operate seasonally and would have food. The hours of operation are planned to be Thursday through Sunday, 3 to 7, and they would at times hold private closed events on site. They're also allowing self-guided tours of the properties, the fields, the animals, the vineyards. They also are looking towards the future. They may be offering music and allow food trucks to come on site. The use is currently licensed by the New York State Liquor Authority. That is already in place. There's a residence also on the site, and the vineyard is also across the street, across the road. There's approximately 22 acres across the road. There are also host members of Harvest Host, which is a camper use which requires 100% self-contained travel units. And this use has been reviewed by the Columbia County Department of Health, and Columbia County Department of Health has cleared them to allow for 5 RVs to stay overnight on site. They're also proposing some signage and the wine making byproducts that they, from the production of the wine, are planned to be used on site in the field. They also plan to recycle bottles that are waste from the tasting use. We didn't find any countywide impact from this. I have some comments noting that the Canadian Planning Board would also have to review this for site plan review. Second, for future uses, suggest that they include the proposed locations on the site plan for the food trucks, music, etc. And for the structures, to identify the use of the existing structures. They're shown on your photograph, but there isn't a site plan per se. It is only photographs. So just suggesting that they label a little bit more on the site plan. They just have the parking, but the structures are not labeled. You can see right here, this is the area where they're dedicating to the Harvest Hosts. The other comment signage, that they provide details on the proposed signage and also the locations shown on the site plan. And also noting that Columbia County Tourism promotes craft beverages, and there's also an app called Scenic Sips that they may wish to contact the tourism department to avail themselves of that opportunity. And there's one other comment that is not included on the EAF will require modification, because question number 13 checked that there weren't any wetlands on site, and as you saw in the previous diagram, there are some wetlands identified to be located on that parcel. And I just want to say that there are a couple of other parcels. Let's see if I can rotate this. That are under ownership of Peter Bartlett. I'm gonna have to make this smaller to show you. This parcel, this one here, and as well as this one, this larger parcel here. And this parcel with a row of trees. So all of these parcels are under the same ownership, okay? But this is the parcel with the winery use located on it. As you see, question number 13. The question is, does any portion of the site or proposed action or lands adjoining contain wetlands or other water bodies regulated by a federal, state, or local agency? So from the map that I showed you before, that it appears that they do exist on this parcel. So that's all I have for this one.
Is there existing vineyards on this property, or are they gonna plant them?
No, it's across the road. 22 acres, they said.
Yeah,
but are they there now, or are they gonna plant them?
as far as I know, they're in process of converting from previous ag use to the vineyards. I'm not sure if they're producing grapes right now or not. I don't have that information.
It'll take a few years to get them established, if they're not there now. So I didn't see any pictures of grapes, but
They have a sign out on 22.
Well, this is what it looks like from the road. This is the residential structure. And this is, I don't know if this is how current this imagery is. But
that's across the street where the vineyards are, or what?
yeah. This is the residential structure, the little one driveway, second driveway.
Well, I do know they have a sign out on Route 22 advertising themselves.
Well, if they are producing wine, that it has to, because it's a New York State winery, farm winery. The grapes would have to be grown by someone in New York State. It has to be using all products grown in New York State. So, in order to have this particular license from the state, New York State farm winery.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions or comments? Entertain a motion.
Aye.
Rick, so moved. Local decision, right, Rick, with the comments?
Second it.
50 seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All those opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay. So the third referral is 20042 Town of New Lebanon, proposed local laws amending the zoning. There are quite a few pages to this, but I can summarize it. But I did want to point out the actual changes to the zoning law. There are two proposed local laws, local law number 2 and number 3 of 2020, to update and amend the code of the Town of New Lebanon. The proposed local law number 2 addresses amendments to chapter 102, 179, and 205. Chapter 102 is farming, 179 subdivision of land, and 205 is zoning. And the local law number 3 pertains to chapter 81, which is building code administration. Most of the amendments pertain to ag uses and short-term rentals. The first section in chapter 102, farming, they updated the right to farm law and included this with the title, adding commercial and non-commercial. They added the section pertaining to definitions that all the meetings set forth would be in accordance with the New York State Agri Markets Law, section 301. They maintained the definition of agricultural land, but they repealed agricultural, farm operation, agricultural practices, farm, farmer, and farming. And the right to farm section, they replaced all the references to agricultural practices or an agricultural farm operation with the term farm operation. They also repealed the notice to prospective neighbors, notice of farm use, that section, and replaced it with a new section setting forth the requirements for ag data statements. Also includes the requirements for submission, evaluation, the notice provision, as well as the content and related requirements in the local zoning law. They added a section, non-commercial farm activity would conform to sound ag practices defined by ag and markets. In the subdivision of land section, they, there are two things I want to point out in the section 1 general permit provisions. There is a reference to any bridge work that is required. Specifications must be obtained from the Columbia County Department of Public Works Commissioner. That person, that title no longer exists. And also, there's an amendment to the driveway width. The minimum driveway width would be increased from 10 feet to 12 feet. In Chapter 205 zoning, as I mentioned, most of these changes pertain to short-term rentals. So under supplementary regulations, short-term rentals, if they are not occupied by the owner or owner-operator, they need to provide the the zoning enforcement officer with a contact person who must live within 20 miles and who would be authorized to receive notices and act on behalf of the owner. Also for off-street parking and loading provisions, they removing the references to bed and breakfast, replacing that with the term short-term rental. The amount of parking remains the same, one space for each guest room. Under special uses, the section dealing here that they are repealing is the part that's highlighted, and adding that the planning board shall conduct special permit review and site plan review concurrently, where the use is subject to both of those reviews. They also again removed the reference to bed and breakfast. They also added a new section pertaining to short-term rentals that they would be established and maintained to preserve and complement the character and integrity of the surrounding area. And if the short-term rental is not occupied by the owner-operator, the code enforcement officers shall be given the contact information. The site plan review, they edited that section, removing the section that's highlighted, adding the authority to allow the planning board to waive certain portions of the review where it's deemed appropriate. Under applicability review requirements, they added to this provision that the zoning enforcement officers authorized to grant a waiver for the sketch plan information requirements when he determines that the information is not relevant or not likely to be required by the planning board during its review. We also amended the sketch plan requirement, adding this section here that applicant shall provide a sketch plan except to the extent where the code enforcement officer determines that it's not necessary. They also, as part of all this, they had to renumber many sections. They also added the waiver of full site plan review, granting the planning board the authority to waive requiring review and approval where it finds in writing and serve to the code enforcement officer that the review is unnecessary, would not serve the purpose of the zoning. And the planning board, in granting a waiver, would determine that the proposed change in use or site plan change would not result in significant additional traffic generation, waste flow, water flows, water consumption, would not adversely affect pedestrian traffic, eliminate parking, or alter the height of the exterior facade. They also added a section for an abbreviated site plan inventory that would apply to existing land uses that have not received site plan approval that were lawfully established prior to the requirement that site plan approval be obtained. And if that is established currently, there would be subject to site plan review. And the code enforcement officer would also maintain such abbreviated site plans and inventories for use by the planning board in the future. And the zoning enforcement officer would notify if requested and provide copies to the planning board for future reviews. For section 20517, entitled Signs and Posters, they added, again, short-term rental, removed B&B, and the signage requirements or remain the same as for a B&B as short-term rental. And they added the term short-term rental to the sign schedule and removed bed and breakfast. And in definitions, they updated the agricultural data statement that it would be the same as that in New York State Ag and Markets Law. This applies to most of the ag definitions that they are including in the zoning. For agritourism, they updated one provision saying that agritourism activity shall be secondary to the primary. The current zoning law includes it as it may be accessory, may be secondary. Also, they removed the reference to bed and breakfast related to agritourism activities and replaced it with short-term rentals. All of these other definitions are set forth to be in accordance with those found in New York State Ag and Markets Law Section 301. They also added the definition for short-term rentals, and they're defining it as the rental or lease of any dwelling space within a residential property to transient fee paying guests for a period of 30 consecutive days or less, but not including spaces that are rented for an aggregate total of 30 days or less over a 365-day period, or a single dwelling space, bedroom, within an owner-occupied residence. Such residential properties may or may not be owner or owner-operator occupied, and the STR arrangement may or may not include provision of meals, and the STR only includes occupancy. Other activities, group gatherings, weddings would be considered separate uses and subject to review as the zoning law provides. They also again deleted the definition of bed and breakfast. For the zoning law use table, chapter 205, attachment 2, they added short-term rental, which would require a special use permit in the RA5, RA2, RA1 zoning districts and the commercial residential zoning district, and then it would be a permitted use in the C general commercial zoning district. The second local law, number 3, applies to the Building Code Administration. Under the exemptions, they removed the exemption for buildings and structures used solely for ag purposes and not for human habitation. Added the installation of window awnings supported by an exterior wall of 1 or 2 family dwellings or multiple single family dwelling townhouses. It also amended the provision pertaining to stop work orders, adding the sentence that where service is made by certified mail, service shall be deemed effective 3 days after mailing without regard to the intended recipient accepts the delivery. Under operating permits, they updated the provisions in the uniform code here. They also added parking garages as defined in this chapter. And the duration of operating permits, they would remain in effect until reissued, renewed, or revoked. And they added that at the discretion of the code enforcement officer may be issued for a specified period of time consistent with local conditions. They also added a whole section dealing with condition assessment of parking garages. They added definitions, including condition assessment, deterioration, parking garage, professional engineer, responsible professional engineer, and unsafe structure. Parking garage means any building or structure or part thereof in which all or any part of any structural level or levels is used for parking or storage of motor vehicles. It would exclude structures where the only level used is on grade. It would exclude attached to accessory structures for detached 1 and 2 family dwellings, and also those attached to townhouse units. It would require condition assessments and periodic condition assessments. They would be conducted by professional engineer requiring a written report. Parking garages shall undergo initial assessment And this would apply to new parking garages following construction and prior to a CO or a certificate of compliance being issued. And also would apply to existing parking garages based on their construction date. And they set up a schedule of how that would apply based on the date that they were constructed. There's also a requirement for periodic condition assessment at intervals not to exceed 3 years. And additional conditional assessments would be required if, upon recommendation by an engineer. The code enforcement officer identifies new or increased deterioration. And also condition assessment reports are created, written, and prepared by an engineer, and the written report is filed with provided to the code enforcement officer. And it shall include an evaluation and description of the extent of the deterioration, unsafe conditions, conditions that cause those deterioration, also problems associated with the conditions, corrective actions, the risks associated with not addressing, the recommendations for preventive maintenance, and also recommendation for the date of the next assessment. And the code enforcement officer is then in turn authorized to take enforcement action in response to the report in order to remedy, in order to require the applicant to comply with the issues identified in the assessment. All these assessment reports are required to be maintained for the life of the parking garage and retained by the code enforcement officer. And it may require that the owner pay for cost expenses associated with making such reports available, and the owner will be responsible for cost of all repairs. And to both of these local laws, they are adding the provisions related to severability, filing with the New York State Department of State, and municipal home rule law. We didn't find any countywide impacts from this and have no comments.
Somebody definitely did their homework, I'll tell you.
Yeah, we should commend them for their efforts.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It takes a lot of time to go through everything and update it.
That's what you got to do, though.
Yeah. Any questions or comments? Not, we'll
No.
entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Larry so moves.
Second.
Hooky seconds. All those in favor?
Right?
Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay.
That's all I have for repeals. Just a couple of things. The training for the New York State Department of State. The training date that we're going to keep having the training is October 26th, Monday, and the sessions that stop presenting here. That we bounced around were solar energy systems and farmland protection, planning and zoning introduction, stormwater, site plan review, and special use permit. It seems like solar energy systems are really a topic where many people would benefit, applicants as well as boards, as well as municipal officials. I would recommend that one, but there's also benefit. There's a lot of new board members. So an introductory session for planning that would attract planning and zoning members would be beneficial as well. We are limited to having one virtual session this year for the fall training, and we can suggest various times. We're not limited to a time frame, daytime or evening. It can be either one. So.
Well, Patrice, does the Department of State, do they post when they're given these training sessions?
They do
other-
have a calendar on their website, yes, and
For-
some of them are statewide, and so they are listed with a registration, and others that they're working with some counties where it's regional specific, and they aren't posting them on their calendar, I guess. So, but yes, they do have a calendar on their website.
I mean, also for anybody that's listening in, if they're interested in this, they should contact your office for the training. and information as we get it.
Yeah, we have a link on our website with we try to keep that updated with training opportunities as we see, even if they're not hosted in Columbia County necessarily, but events that would be something that would be available to people in this county.
Yeah, I know the New York Planning Federation appreciates your help on doing that.
Everything is virtual now, anyway. So, and I just received so do we have any thoughts on topic?
Do you want to do the solar or the new planning board thing, gentlemen?
I think the solar is the most important. That's what we're having the problems with.
Yeah. It's sold.
Okay.
That's
I
what's
will
coming all the time.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. So the solar is the way we're gonna go?
Yes.
Want to be virtual then?
Yes.
Yep. On the 26th,
All right.
the time determined.
You don't have a time yet, though, right?
We're gonna shoot for the evening with it.
Yeah, let's hope. Yeah.
And we're looking with the other person who's up for reappointment.
Yeah.
The membership terms ending this year are Hooky, Ed Stickler, Steve Hook, Ed Stickler, and Steve Feathers. So if you would let me know if you're interested, and we'll start that process in reappointment, notifying the supervisors.
You say something, Steve?
Yeah, I said, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
And Ed said earlier, go ahead. Okay, you interested? You have to give Kippy the $21 bill again?
Yeah, I'll give Kippy. Gotta check with Ben Venuto, see if he has anybody, because we share with Ghent.
Yeah.
All right, well, just let me know. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else for this evening, Patrice?
That's all that I have.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate your patience this evening and hanging in there. And
Let Rick get back to his guitar.
There you go, drums.
play us out a little bit there.
I can't go over to I can't go across the street over to the bar there.
Helsinki to open mic.
Helsinki, yeah, they're closed.
This is really cramping your style, this whole pandemic.
I know it.
You actually have to do carpentry work.
It is. All right.
Have a good evening, everybody.
You too.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Safe.
See you
Good
next.
night.
Thank you.
We'll
You're welcome.